Hi, this is Anirban Saha, and I welcome you on behalf of the team to the second episode of Season 2. During Season 2, we interview a selected few professionals in the domain of data science and converse about what it takes to get a job in the real world. Today, in conversation, we have Asit Dutta. Asit Dutta has been headhunting for over a decade now. Currently, he is the head of recruitment at Fluunt GmbH. He has previously recruited for companies like Deutsche Bahn, DeliveryHero, Home24, Marketlogic, to name a few. In this discussion, we explore a lot of things that range from top 3 qualities that can make a candidate a misfit, importance of thesis, cover letter, CV, recommendation letter, grades, but most importantly, how a candidate fits into the existing culture of the company, or what we call as a personality fit or company fit. 7 more weeks, friends. Every Wednesday evening, we would release one episode of this podcast season 2. If you like our work, hit the follow button on our LinkedIn page. The link is in the podcast description. Also, do share your feedback with us and listen to the other podcasts. Let's get started. Asit, thank you for agreeing to have this conversation with us and to interact with the students.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me, Anirban, also his team, and I'm looking really forward to have the session with you. Thank you so much.
We would structure our conversation today in a way where we touch the topics of curriculum writing, cover letter, master thesis, and everything related to a fresher. And by fresher, we mean people who come from outside Germany here to study in the domain of data science and are doing their masters and then graduating. Many of them have previous work experience, but a few of them do not. So that is the kind of audience we are targeting, and the discussion would be very specific to them.
All right.
And yes, we will focus more on the company fit or the personality fit that we had previously discussed.
Okay.
A lot of my friends, as I told you, have come across you in various groups on social media. You post a lot of job requirement posts. Suppose an aspirant applies. What happens then? Like, would you like to walk us through the entire process?
Yeah, sure. Definitely. My job is to find people, and that normally qualified people worked in, just to name it, in the country where the company is looking for good candidates for a long time, being experienced in the technology. If it's about IT, we're talking about, and also the personality which suits to the company. I'm very much interested to see, first of all, how the CV is written and what kind of format the person has wrote his own book, and also the experience level that the person brings along, and if the experience matches with the requirement of the company, where I'm not just going through the job description, which is like normally written by maybe the HR or by an office manager or in the 5 minutes of the CTO that he had, that I need to know, first of all, the proper requirement, talking to the technical department. This is actually the way I work, We have to know the hard facts and figures about the technical skills, the hard skills, and also maybe then with the help of the HR, also the soft skills, the personality part. And then accordingly to the requirements, which I normally write new in my book or on my laptop, then I can start having a conversation with the person who has applied for the opening, and then basically I start asking her or that person a couple of questions about the company fit, about the culture, the technology fit, and of course then I'm going step to step to details about technology. How long? When was the last time? What is your passion? What is the future 5 years you're looking for? And when it comes to company fit questions or personality fit questions, I also ask you about how you feel as a team member, how you feel as a person working in a small, big, or mid-sized company, what were experiences before in the country you're coming from, what is the experience you're having here being in Germany, a student. So that's just to give you a small teaser, but I'm sure we are going more in details.
So before approaching people, if I understood you correctly, you talk with the relevant teams, technical and the people from the company.
Yes.
You understand it, then you look forward to people, and then you interact with the aspirants.
Right.
And then you take it forward.
Exactly. That's basically the correct way, the fine way, because otherwise, if you see in Stepstone or LinkedIn, all the job descriptions, they're all looking the same. And I have to find out what difference the person should have if it's, for example, an e-commerce company. So there are hundreds and thousands of e-commerce companies in Berlin, especially, and then what is different in your company? What are the tech stacks differently than in the other companies who are just offering the same job description? And accordingly to the head of IT or the tech lead person, he or she can tell me exactly, check out exactly for these kind of candidates, if they bring this. And I also ask some extra questions about level of experience, questions about personality, and altogether it actually creates a new job description for me, which I always also cross-check again with the HR of the company and also with the tech department. If this is the correct job description, I can send to my candidates, and if they agree, then at least I have a better matching. And then, yes, as you said, I start talking to different people, invite them for a face-to-face or telephone interview, and talk about all the questions that I actually have to ask.
Here you mentioned about experience and technology. What if a person does not have previous work experience or is trying to change the domain of his work? In that case, how do you judge a person? Would master thesis or the student jobs the person do? Does these things come into the picture?
Difficult. And if you talk about Germany, or the situation currently in Germany is getting better, after the pandemic is somehow under control. The IT actually didn't sleep even last year. There were a lot of firing, but also a lot of hiring in some couple of segments. Now it looks like every company, if you open LinkedIn, looks for hiring this kind of category, that kind of category. So that person who changes all of a sudden the domain will definitely find something also in the new domain. Now, if I would be the company and hire for senior people, experienced people, I have to ask myself, okay, does it make sense to have somebody who's changing the domain interviewed at all? Now the person, question number one was, in your part, have no experience, right? Or changing the domain?
Both.
Okay, let's go for option A. No experience at all. There must be a start of every company. I mean, what happens if you imagine a startup scenario, a startup gets 50 million euro funding from some investors, and then all of a sudden now we have to hire people. Whom we have to hire first is a CTO, a head of product, and then starting with top down, like senior architects, senior senior developers, front-end QA, product managers, and so on, and data scientists, of course, I shouldn't forget them. And then we also need freshers, some junior level, entry level, trainees, interns, and that is actually the crux. If you are new in this country, I think it's very important, even during your master's thesis, you have to get into, if we have to categorize again. If you talk about Berlin IT jobs, it's ideal if you work in one of these common startups that we can see on every day on the TV, or when you open LinkedIn, this company is hiring a Java developer, data science. If you can get an internship, trainee level entry there, it definitely will make sense. Then the chances is also high. Now, somebody brings, let's say, 4 years of experience in Java and now wants to change to data science. That person is also not in the same way interesting. I think he's even more interesting because he knows exactly how development works. He knows the ABC. So it's just another language he has to adapt. So let's say 4 years or 5 years, a senior, mid-level to senior guy, is all of a sudden changing the domain. How much he really has to learn to understand our data science, or the languages in machine learning, for example. It will take him maybe a week, 2, 3, maybe a month to understand. But as we also know now, it's all learning by doing. right? So if that person is smart enough that he has to show and prove, then the person might be also having at least an interview where he can get a coding challenge, or he can have his GitHub to show his projects, So a lot of things matters. And currently in Germany, if you talk about the numbers of openings, I think we are nearly 100,000, IT job openings. And I cannot imagine it's just the seniors they can look for. So it has to start with the senior top level people, and then we have to also get people getting into the job, learning the job, and then they also have to become a mid-level senior, junior, senior, and also a CTO one day, So to answer the question, there's never a straight way for people who are doing a change, but I think the chances are for both the same. So the freshers who doesn't have any experience should start having internships as much as they can in startups, which is using state-of-the-art technologies. Not really working in big shots, like, let's say, I don't want to, I can use the names like companies like Siemens, I cannot use names. So like Siemens kind of good, very, very good companies, I was working there, by the way, so I can use that name. And so bigger, MNCs, for example, when we come to MNCs, I think we know that a lot of friends from us are coming from those MNCs from our home country, right? That is always like an advantage being in a big company, but also in the same time a disadvantage, to talk about the company fit part, but I will come to this later, and so that's actually what I think as an advice or as my experience. I have seen experience talked, and I'm also discussing things with CTOs, HR every day actually, why a fresher is not equally good, if the person is not in that high level of range of salary, for example, but somebody who is really a smart person who can start, So the conversation starts always from the beginning, where to start first, where to begin first with the hiring. But I believe the person who is really interested to work at a company just to change the domain, he or she will also find a job.
Okay, let me ask a very targeted question.
Hmm.
When you are recruiting, do you look at master thesis and the grades a student get in their master thesis? I cannot be more explicit than this.
You mean by me, you means me, myself as a person or as a company?
Yes, I'm asking you.
Okay, no.
Okay, and would the company look at it?
Yeah, no, not the marks maybe. It depends on, again, what topic we're talking about. If it's about data science, yes, we need a mathematician, who's good in algorithms, who is good in math, of course, And if it's not a one written in the beginning, I think this is a high flyer. He might not getting a job. The requirements, what I'm getting, even for data scientists or for data engineers, for example, if you take this topic, it's again more about the experience. Yes, it's written in the requirement. Either you have a BTech or master's in technology, or you have computer science, So it's the degree, and the more the experience you have, the more chances you will get to get so many interviews, as many interviews as you want, actually, So yes and no. I'll check if the person has done a master's thesis or any degree, which is always the requirement of any JD, but I'm not looking at the mark or the grade.
Okay, that's a little scary, but I'll continue.
Yeah. Sorry to say this there.
Just not master thesis, does overall grades matter?
I think I've never heard from any of the CTOs that look for a person who has done a master's thesis in that grade or under that or below, or like being in the top level. I've never heard this.
Okay. Does overall grade, like all the courses, the final grade that you get after you complete your master's, does that grade matter for some shortlisting or selection? Do you look at the grades?
I don't do, frankly speaking.
Okay.
I don't do. Just to give you an example, just a current example that I had with a company is they were looking for data engineers, and of course the requirements 7 to 8 years of experience, working in a startup, working with a small middle-sized team, and also at the top of the JD is written, you are graduated in a, as a bachelor or in a master's, In the hiring interview, then in the coding challenge, And then later in the offer challenge, basically, at none of the level the person was asked ever about the grade, you know. Now the person was also not super experienced, but semi-experienced, you know. And I think I have to say honestly that when it comes to data science, I currently experience, because I have in my like in our company, we have an opening for a kind of data science person who is very fit in SQL, data science technologies, you know. And my boss told me, hey, Asit, you know, can you look for somebody who is having experience of SQL? But he never mentioned the grade. You know, the person should understand data modeling, you know, Python, SQL. And I asked him, okay, anything else? Yeah, he should be also communicative. Okay, cool. Okay, good. Because he will sit beside you maybe. Okay, English, German, yeah, fluent German would be good. English, yeah, if he can, it would be good. Nothing else. And that is fortunately, unfortunately, however you see it, you know, the reality, you know, because the companies are looking for having the person right now, you know, don't waste time, you know, send them the best guys, you know, the pressure is so high on recruiters that we have to filter quickly. But what I can tell you honestly, I was just recently talking to an academy, because we are now posting jobs over there just to get some freshers, you know, because my boss told me get some freshers, you know, unfortunately German speaking, or at least C1 or native German, you know. So I was talking to that academy, and they were really glad that established company is posting a job there, you know, that their alumni or the graduates can apply, you know. It's just how many people are looking on those job boards than LinkedIn, you know. So anyways, just to give you an example, that reality sometimes is different, you know, than what we learn.
Okay, I'll ask one more question on master thesis before going to the next section.
Sure.
I'm sorry for this.
No.
You mentioned that startups are working on the state-of-the-art technologies.
Some of them, yeah.
Isn't the state-of-the-art worked on more in the labs at the universities than?
Yeah, I mean, like, it depends on labs is definitely there are so many categories of technologies right now. One is now called digital health, which I think falls under your question, you know, where or IoT. I'm sure you heard about this IoT stuff. So all of a sudden, if you as a patient, you go to a hospital, you know, you don't have to even enter the OT. You know, people can check your tummy and see what's inside, you know, or you just scan it basically, and people don't need to operate or cut your tummy or whatever, you know. Things are happening already in such a big way that we cannot see it, you know. But if you talk about the very traditional product base, you know, having another e-commerce platform selling this, you know, I think it's more like copy paste, you know, what happens with another different diverse product, you know. And so I think that the majority definitely is using that kind of copy model, you know, just to name it differently. But yes, the trend is getting into IoT, where a lot of labs like okay, I cannot name anything, but a lot of labs which are used for the IT part are definitely actually the initiator and the creator of the product. That is true, I agree.
Now let's come to the main part of the discussion today.
Sure.
Let me see how I could frame this question. Did you have a person who ticked all the technical requirements, but you were like, I don't like this guy, so I'll not take this guy? Did it happen ever with you?
Happens every day, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the thing is, it is difficult for some people to say the truth, you know, but it's better if you get to know the truth for somebody, you know, just to live in a food's world, you know, that so again, it depends on people who just come out of the university. That's a different world for them to enter the startup or the IT field or the job field, you know, job market of the world, you know. Somebody who comes from India with 5-6 years of experience, you know, coming from an MNC, again, no names, you know, but there are a few, you know, and they're already here in Germany. For them, it's a different world, you know. All of a sudden, if I ask them even the questions, you know, that, okay, I have my requirements directly from the CTO. Did you ever work with Spring Boot? And the question is, Spring, I know. Okay, what does it mean? Did you use Spring Boot? And how long and when was the last time? Yeah, I used it at the project. Okay, exactly when? What project? Which project? And how long? Answer the question for the second time. Not I'm talking in this tone, but I'm just thinking, why the guy is talking so much about the bush, just to tell me, I don't know Spring Boot. The interview would have been 5 minutes. I would say, okay, sir, thanks for applying. Let me just check, if I can help you. Now, are we also just trying to give people a job because we have to, or are we also educative? So basically, what I did in the last years of understanding the technology part of the sector, that somebody who doesn't bring Spring Boot, it's very important for that person to learn it, or to be state of the art. Otherwise, that person will always fail in the questions, not with me, but later with the HR and with the hiring manager, to answer the question. If he doesn't know how to answer, or that person doesn't know how to answer the question.
Yeah, one follow-up would be, suppose a fresher does not know something, because we are concentrating more on mathematics and science, and not specifically to a particular language or a specific technology.
Sure.
If we can prove that, hey, we are good people and we are good value addition, do you think companies would like to hire us and then train us for some period of time at least, if we show potential?
That's a very open question, Anirban. No? So basically, I can say yes or no and give for both reasons. Let me be positive. I say yes. Okay. So yes, why not? Then we have both the things inside. Because there's definitely a trend in Germany coming, which is called data science, NLP, whatever it's called, and data engineering. What was lacking in the last couple of years was the part of security, was the part of knowledge, was part of best practices, where people in Asian countries, America, or other parts of the world are just miles ahead of Germany. This is my honest opinion, that if I look at the job board right now, even yesterday I was just checking, as I do on a daily basis, what's going on in Berlin. The data science, data engineering jobs are like exploding everywhere. In every company we're working with, there's a new opening, or there's an opening already existing, which is called data science, data engineering, BI / data warehouse / data engineering. So it's happening. That these kind of things are going to happen very soon, that persons who like freshers who are actually intellectual or smart in these fields, that they don't need to learn a certain language like Java or understanding certain databases, but the concept of data science, data engineering, will have high chances to come to companies which is using IoT, state-of-the-art technologies, algorithms, which is happening now in Berlin a lot, but also in Germany. Just think about self-driving cars. There's a big factory open. They're looking crazily for data science people. And even the competitions, the old competition, the German competitions, they're all having the labs all over Germany, especially in Berlin. And my last search was finding an AI developer. It's a new field. And so it's definitely in trend right now in Germany, also in Berlin especially. And yes, I would say, yes, the chances are there that freshers will get a chance to get into a job.
Okay. While giving an example, you mentioned that the person did not know Spring Boot and was beating around the bush. Did it ever happen that a person qualified all the technical skills, that is, the person knew the technical skills, but you rejected him or her? Did it happen just because of behavior, or you did not feel like hiring that person?
See, the word commitment is very big written in our industry, and that's not just from the recruiting part, but also from the client side. Like clients are the companies we're working with. Yeah. Yes, of course. There are several factors why I reject people. One is see that the proof or the evidence of knowing everything is basically on on the way he talks, on the way he gives his answers. If the person has 10 years experience in Java, Spring Boot, Docker, Kubernetes, and I can see this in this project, I won't question him, Now, what are the reasons for rejecting him? Yes, behavior, attitude could be one thing, because I have to project him again in the company I'm working with, where my image is maybe there for the last 2 or 3 years of being a good recruiter, or whatever, and giving the persons who are creative, initiative, team player, they are good team players, they can work in a team, and also being an added value. Now, if I put a person who is on high fly, who knows everything, he might be helping the company to bring to the next level, but for how long? He might be having personality issues, he might be having an ego, That is the personality part. The second part is why I can reject persons. If it's a high flyer, the person might be not just working with me together. He might work with other headhunters, he might work directly with companies. So the commitment level is based on the personality, technical skills. I'm just putting this under the same. And the second part is in how many other commitments he is. Is he working with 10 other headhunters? Can he just choose any job? Actually, and I'm just number 14 and 15 in this list, just to see his value. Is it 80,000 or 100,000 he can get, in the next job? Then I have to tell him that, hey, listen, you just finished everything. When you don't get anything, which I don't believe, you just come back to me, because it is a waste of time to run behind a person who has in so many processes, but it's not really sure actually what he wants. At the end, he might stay in this company, just talk to his boss and tell, hey, boss, I'm leaving. The boss who hired him maybe 10 years back, 5 years back, boss said, hey, what do you want? I just want to have more money. Okay, here's it. We have dinner together, we'll go for bowling, what else you want? I want a car. Okay, here's it. It's so easy these days actually for persons who are in a good position, who can choose a job they want. But then these persons I have to cut out of my list. That unfortunately is a good experience. I learned a lot from him. This is my added value, at least, having a good conversation, understanding more about the field he is, more about the market, because I can find out which companies are hiring right now. That's good for my list. The second part is through whom he is actually introduced. Is it another headhunter, or is it by himself, or by the company itself? Again, another database entry for me though, but still it's helpful for my database to fill it.
So this is where we come to the topic of company fit.
Yeah.
For our audience right now, would you like to explain a bit about company fit or personality fit, the way you described to me?
Sure. As I mentioned, there are always two parts of getting hired in a company. One is the technical part, which you can qualify for a couple of years, school, education, and everything. And definitely you should be passionate about your company, about your job, what you do. You should love it actually. The second thing is you have to be very, very much prepared to join a new company, which means what we here say company fit, cultural fit, personality fit is basically if you talk about people who are coming from abroad, should be understanding and coming from abroad to Germany, should understanding how Germany works first of all. Number one. Number two is that if I'm invited for an interview, it's not maybe the same thing. I'm getting the same question asked like in my country. It will be in a different way, in a different sequence. It will be in a total different manner actually. That it is not that wearing a suit kind of interview or understanding how many awards you got. It's more about actually yourself, It's the person they're going to hire is actually a human being. It's you. And if it's clear for them that they're going to hire Anirban Saha, for example, they know exactly in the first round or second round or even the third round, which always has a part of cultural or company fit along, that Anirban is the right fit for a company. For example, just recently an HR asked me, how do you do the interviews? I told her, I asked, the usual questions, tell me something about yourself, what were you doing last 5 years? And when it comes to a certain point where we can break the ice, I also ask personal questions. And the personal questions are not personal questions or private questions. It's more about how do you behave in a conflict situation? How do you how do you, for example, would dress up in an interview for a CTO position? How would you answer the question if you're already in Berlin for the last couple of 3-4 years working in a hi-fi company? What is the best thing you like in Berlin? What are the best restaurants you can recommend me to go with you one day? What person inspires you? So with these questions, it's not just the technical things which should come out. It's more about, okay, who am I? And also gives that applicant kind of view. Okay, that company is interested not to hire my skills, it's interested to hire my person, actually. Because here in Germany, or especially in the Berlin startup scene, the company is starting with 0, and if we cannot name companies, all of a sudden the company has 20,000 employees, but it starts with 0. So you are one of the beginners or starting persons. At least by name, the boss will know you. So to have you in the family, it is very important to fulfill at least or to answer those questions good, honestly, not talk about the bush, talk around the bush. Straightforward is very, very important, which is always difficult, because it's not about being honest. It's more about who you are going to that company. For example, if you have 5 years experience in India and worked in, let's say you even come from a startup, still I would say things like dress sense, what small talk I can actually do with my boss. Here, I would say 80% of the startups have the same eye level. I mean, like, you're sitting in the same office with the boss. There is no glass door, there's no glass box, You can come anytime to your boss or to your senior and tell them, hey, I have a question, I don't understand. And now the main thing comes, they don't want to have a person who just follows the command or the order of the company. They want to have somebody who can inspire them, give them ideas, tell them about their best practices, about strategy, about product ideas, how to bring the company into the next level. And if these kind of criteria they can find out in the initial talks, which is the HR round of asking these silly questions, and the second round is going with the person for lunch, for example, with the boss or with the CTO, understand, okay, not the way he eats or what he eats, it's more about what he talks in that half an hour, 1 hour time that he takes off from his big schedule, So in that 1 hour, which we call the elevator lift, in sales, that is the moment you can really impress people, Now everything else is done, technical done, company fit is done, Now it's all about, okay, I want to have the job at any cost, because you just found out for yourself, the company is just made for me. And then it comes actually to the right connection.
We have put a lot of effort to make this episode happen. If you think we have done a good job, please share this episode with your friends, colleagues, or with anyone who may find this episode useful. Please drop us your feedback, as they matter a lot. Other details about the podcast can be found in the description. Hi, I am Shubham, and I'm sorry for this interruption. Please continue listening to this episode right till the end. Thank you.
What it looks for me, I see it like the art of conversations, honest conversations and small talks. And would that not require an aspirant to know how not to turn off the other person?
Absolutely.
So it's more of a luck that the person, suppose I talk about, say, bird photography. And the person asks me, what is your hobby? And I say, bird photography. And very recently, I'm buying a lot of plants. The person might not be interested in birds, might think it is extremely silly, and might have pollen allergy.
Okay.
Then would I get rejected?
No. See, I think regarding this hobbies field, which we sometimes used to write in the CVs, which can be now totally cut out, just to give you one of my experiences, cut out the hobby section, please, for everybody, Nobody's interested in your cooking and swimming styles, unless you really bring something, on the first day, here, this is the best butter chicken you've ever eaten, or anything else, or proper biryani, which is not available in Germany, something like this. I think unless you're not killing the bird, you just photographing them or just make pictures, that's a nice thing, but let's say in a lunch meeting, for example, you get to know each other and you talk about all these extra curriculum, right? You also ask the same question back, so if the person says, yeah, photography also, maybe the person all of a sudden is interested also in photography, and then you talk about cameras, then you talk about this model, that model, and then one topic to the other, and it's true, and nobody will be rejected just to tell if somebody's getting asked or you're getting asked what are your hobbies, unless it's again not the same thing about cooking and everything, because people are maybe sick of reading this, all the time, and doing sports, because I think everybody does cooking and everybody just do sports, if in the first round of interview in the HR, if this question comes up, I only mentions, but maybe at point 4 or 5, I would start, definitely as a, let's say, data scientist, I'm very interested, and not to butter somebody's, it's more like understanding that I'm with my heart and my passion in this job, that I'm reading about data science, about AI and so on, I like to read about this, I like to see something about this, but besides that, when I get a bit of free time, I also like to read books, especially Sherlock Holmes, because, I like to use my mind, or I like to play chess because that brings me always in different thoughts, but tell me, what do you like, so a conversation or a question can be also used as a good platform or basis, to start a conversation by yourself, because once a person asks you a question, ask the question back. And all of a sudden you find some similarities. Of course, if you start shooting the birds, not making pictures, and the person says, I'm actually a vegetarian, and like, okay, bad for you. Like, you shouldn't say I love chicken or something, but see, I think there will be a basis at least to smile for that moment, and things might work out positively, but again, you have to study about the company's details, not about the HR who is interviewing you, the CTO. You should definitely look in LinkedIn, or look in Singh,
this is where I was going to ask you this question. Except for LinkedIn, just to understand whether the person fits into the company, would you also look into Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and other social media which people use?
I think to get to know a person, it's not just reading the book, you have to open the book now. So it's or the backside of the book, you have to open the book and just see, and that just works with communication. And our job, I always tell my people, never message people if you want to have something. You just have to call them up and just ask them what do you want to ask. So I think LinkedIn is so far on a professional note good to understand where the person is coming from, education and everything, what kind of languages he speaks. Sometimes good, created LinkedIn profiles they're also written about conferences, about GitHub and everything, so you can see a bit more and understand where the person's really coming from. But at the end, I think not I'm not using Facebook to see anyone's profile unless it's my family member or something, But on the other hand, I cannot really recommend it, because I have to say honestly, I'm maybe not so social media, I mean Insta and Facebook like you guys,
So you do not stop people on social media to understand whether they fit the company or not?
No, not at all.
That's good. Carl has a question which I would like to ask you right now, is can these personality traits be learned, especially when a person is coming from a different culture, just not work culture, but an entirely different culture? And this question is extremely relevant because a lot of the international students are coming from East Europe, Middle East, the Indian subcontinent, and the culture here is a little different. So can these traits be learned? And if yes, how?
Yes, it can be learned, definitely. It's 100% something where you have to get deep into understanding. Let's say the best example I can give myself, if you come from India, because I've interviewed many Indian people in my life, that the cultural the way of upbringing, the way of living, the way of talking, is, I would say, not super difficult, they're different, but it is different because it starts from living alone in Germany. There's nobody here, there's nobody. Maybe your roommate is there, but there's not a single person who will help you to do whatever, starting from finding a flat, cooking, bringing the chai on your table and everything, all these things are not there. So you have all these headaches every day, apart from you have to find a job, right? So a long time back, when I got my first CVs from so-called job seeker visas who already landed in Berlin, approached me, hey Asit, can you help me? I checked the CV, like, wow, wonderful, super, yeah, why not, And I was asking a couple of questions. So how do you like Germany? And I was asking, and summertime, good time, right? So there are a lot of beaches here. You can have drinks here. And the person was totally, I would say, shocked by my questions. That how can somebody ask me those kind of questions? And I said, like, I'm sorry, I didn't want to hurt your culture or something. Where you're coming from, I'm sure. Give you any shock feeling, but you should know that it works different. It's not, again, losing your roots and eating things which you don't like to eat, just to be a cool person, but to make not the same mistake, I would brief, or I would recommend everyone before coming to Germany to understand, or even if you land in Germany, to have a person like a coach who can give you all the insights, especially being in Germany. And if you're also, let's say, you are German with Indian roots, for example, just to give you a very crazy example, that person can maybe understand a bit more that, okay, where the person is really coming from, how his upbringing was, how the tea came to his table, who made his food, who, whatever things, all these things matters, just to give him a bit of reality. That's something which has changed now, of course. Now people like you doesn't give a judgment or something, just talking in general, who have been here for the last couple of 3 years and understanding, talking and walking in a bit of German way, and there's of course a trend happening with our people. But still, I would say the person should be briefed and prepared before coming here, just before he goes to the visa office, and understand, okay, I have to make my own rice, my own dal, take care of
that is there, obviously.
Yeah. And also understand how Germany works, and also getting questions like this. But again, I interviewed also not just male person, also female person, who came maybe through the husband or even alone. Now there's a big trend, which I'm very happy that all of a sudden they're also female coming, trying to find a job, and then bringing in their husbands or whatever, vice versa, and for them, I would say it's the same challenge. It's not tougher, but it's the same challenge, because it's an unfair world at some point, and people are making use of the person. But yes, to answer the question, it has to be done good. The person can be prepared for those questions, and also can be made perfectly ready for even passing those questions.
We say that we are not being judged, but at the end of the day, everything we do is being judged when we are trying to understand whether the person fits into the company or not.
Yeah. So basically, as I started the sentence, is like, unfortunately, in this world, you are put in a specific drawer. Means you are from India, you're from a South Asian continent, and even I faced this indirectly when I had my interview in the company before. Why are Indians good in mathematics? I could be insulted. I could be challenged in that term. Okay, why are you asking me things like where it's clearly written how good we are in certain categories, and you point out the word Indian and you, and also mathematics, But later he just told me, basically, I just wanted to have a conversation with you, not a typical, hey, tell me something about yourself interview, Now, what happens still in many companies, and also in startup companies, you are judged by your looks. Looks means where you're coming from, what is your past experience, your dress sense, in some ways, because I would say it's the matter of the person who applies, who should understand it's a startup. It's not a bank job he's looking for, an insurance job. It's not JP Morgan or KPMG. Is looking for. It's a startup company. So that is the problem where I think this kind of thinking came from, where companies think, okay, this guy is from, let's say, India. We must ask him some Bollywood questions. We would ask him some this question: where's the best restaurant? What do you think of? What do you think? Oh, no names. And so on. So, and I face this so often. Even right now, so I just say that people are thinking always in the same way, that you are from a specific country. You at the end you crack a joke about that person, and you just have to swallow it, and just imagine the person is coming just right now from his hometown, maybe from a small village where his family has kept him so well that everything will be fine, in this new world. And he gets that silly question. He might be crying at the same time and just go home and call his mother, So I think it's very, very important that both sides have to be educated, also the company side, that we cannot think, okay, this guy is from that country, okay, we have to behave like this. It's all the same. On the other hand, because it's like this and people are still thinking like this and behaving like this, the applicants, they have to prepare for such questions and answer just smartly back, not being arrogant, but smart enough to answer the question and also tell, this is who I am, this is what I want, and I just want to have this job, take me or leave me, Attitude is very, very important in this job, Otherwise, being a shy person hardly can shake hands, because we do this thing maybe sometimes more than shaking hands, It's
Who does that now? Like, seriously?
Yeah, okay, we just do this, yeah. But so many things I've heard, and I've seen and realized myself when I talk to our friends,
Yeah. Like, FYI, if someone asks me about Bollywood, I will have just no answers. Okay, we are 45 minutes into the session, and we will just quickly have very few questions with very short answers, because I know you have differing opinions, and I would like to ask you these questions.
Okay.
Question number 1: how long should a CV be?
Maximum 2 pages.
Would it be okay if we have 2 columns?
Yeah.
Would it not get stuck in ATS, applicant tracking softwares?
No, even the new CVs, which are now looking very interesting, because on the left column you have all the technology skills. On the right side, depends, of course. If you have 10 years of experience, it will be difficult to put in 1 page, But I think that's the state of the art CVs. On the left side, skills with your own judgment, ratings. In the middle section, like in the main section, starting from the professional experience, going down to skills, education, and then maybe hobby, But languages, the thing matters right now. It's enough. Like 2 columns, yes.
Do you read cover letters?
No.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, see, let me, because of this question, I read the question many times. See, I also did it when I had my first job, I wrote a cover letter. But I think it's very difficult for a fresher to judge yourself. It's more about the personality you can judge and how good you are, what you actually learned. But nobody knows how good you are, what you've learned. Nobody knows what you've learned actually, unless you show it, So I think the cover letter doesn't make sense in the IT section. I would say more on the creative part of the world, I think it makes sense more. Or if you're like a new UX designer, you have this portfolio and everything, But to impress a person, being a fresher or being an experienced person in the IT, I think the hard facts here, in the beginning for the hard skills you can see, it's more important than a cover letter. That's why I hardly get actually cover letters, just 2 or 3 times, and you can imagine from whom.
Yeah. I have another question. The question is, when a person is trying to understand whether an aspirant fits into the company, would recommendation letters be of any help?
Yes. Recommendation methods definitely help. In Germany, we call Zeugnisse, Arbeitszeugnisse. Yes, 100%. Because in the reference letter, a CTO writes it, or the CEO of the company, exactly on what he was working with and exactly with what he was working with.
Okay, but for a fresher, how should the recommendation letter look like? It should be from a professor, because the person is not working with a CTO or a CEO of a company. Right?
Again, the future for the fresher is starting an internship, being in a trainee level. Depends, of course, if the company is hiring currently freshers, graduates from the university. Then basically, I think a reference letter from the professor makes sense. For example, in the field you are in data science or data languages, I think that is very, very important to have that kind of reference letter inside, but definitely it's a tough thing for a fresher to get a job, no doubt about that.
Okay, the purpose of this session was to tell them it is not a tough thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, let's try to make this slightly easier. For example, there are students who do a lot of things, say something in computer vision, something in NLP, something somewhere else. They do not have a defined area of interest when they come and start their masters, and they end up having credits from a lot of domains. And there are times when companies ask for very specific skills. How would you like to advise that student how to apply or how to present himself? You also, in your talk, you mentioned about the elevator pitch. How would you advise the student to do that?
Very good question. First of all, I would change the CV. Depends on the job requirements. Unless, let's say, two options. Once again, he applies on its own without having a recruiter, understand? Then he has to only read the job description, read actually what this company is doing. I'm sure he will understand what kind of technology the product is using. Maybe he will find some papers, some sources in the internet, where maybe technology is defined for that project. Accordingly to that, I would change the 1 or 2 pages of the CV. Okay. Secondly, if the headhunter is doing the job good, as I prepared in the first or second question, then the person exactly knows again how to write the CV and focus on those technologies. And in the conversation itself, I would make I don't know what is it called for data scientists, maybe a project link, what he has done. That might impress the person that I worked on similar fields, or I worked on similar technologies, or using the same stacks, but I didn't I don't have practical experience as such in a company, But I would see what is the requirement of the company. Accordingly, I would shorten the CV. Even he has 10 different projects running. I would then choose maybe the best 2, and the rest I would put in a project linked with his link. If he has a link, if he can display his projects to the company,
Our friends have often complained that a lot of job descriptions are pretty unclear at times.
Yeah.
And I believe there is a gap between how students comprehend the job descriptions and what the companies write with some expectations inside their head. Why do you think this difference of expectations happen? Because at the end of the day, the freshers or the students are just confused. It's just a long list of requirements, most of which they do not qualify because they are starting. And
Sure.
What are your thoughts about it? Why do you think this happens? Is it something on the
Yeah, we talk about the why.
Is it something on that the companies could improve upon, or is it something that the students could work on?
I think companies. To answer the question, what happens in real life when a job description is written by, let's say, HR, HR maybe writes the company, the job description of a data scientist, and writes first of all, the person should have a source. The source is the IT head of data science, for example. So now the time schedule of a data science or head of IT might be so less that on the corridor or in a Zoom chat, the person might just have that head of IT for 5-6 minutes just to answer the questions, or even just find out through an email. This is what we need, ideally, for a fresher or data scientist in our company. So what companies write wrongly in job descriptions, actually what kind of package they want to have all in all. Now, to answer the question with the reasons, is definitely that the HR and also the IT lead, if they really want to have some results at the end of the week, month, sometimes it takes really 2 or 3 months, because the job description is so badly written, have to sit together ideally for 10-15 minutes, define what are the must-haves and what is the nice-to-haves in a job description, which is hardly happens. That's why, again, question answer. The first question I answered, or the first question I was explaining more, is if we are doing the interruption of the recruiting process, bringing our candidates in, we have to ask those questions indirectly by the CTO or by the IT lead to tell me from all the 10 technologies, which are the 3 or 4 important a fresher has to bring. And then he will answer me, or he has to answer me, just to give him the expectation back. Okay, we are looking with Asit or which company ever to find the best fresher from data science technical university or Magdeburg, So basically, then the JD has to be redefined actually. But what happened normally, to answer the question again, is the time actually is not there to write a proper job description. That's why hundreds of applications are flying in, wrongly matched, because the job description is not well written by HR, CTO, whoever's responsible for that, So the candidate cannot really match. They just see from the 10 skills that they have worked with 3, but they're looking for a fresher. It's also written, we're looking for entry-level fresher, but not really clearly written actually what are the 3-4 technologies they like to have. And then the rest they can learn by the seniors or by the head of, So it's definitely the mistake of the company.
Okay. I'll try to summarize the company fit part a bit, which I already did a few minutes before, but this is for the sake of the audience who will listen to the podcasts, that every interaction we have with the company or a representative of the company, the representative of the company is trying to understand whether we fit into the company, whether we fit as a person in the company, whether the team will be comfortable having us or me in their team in the longer run as well. Did I summarize it correctly?
Yeah, definitely.
And this process of convincing the person that I could be a good teammate or a team person in your team would require a range of skills, which includes conversation skills, how you break the ice, how you do small talks, how you conduct yourself in a formal and an informal meeting, recommendation letters, and how you also interact with the person outside the company. Like I might be meeting few people in social occasions, in social parties, but the person would still be knowing me and judging me. So all of these lead to a situation where the representative of the company, they understand, okay, this is a person that can fit into this team. So I'm like a matchmaker. Instead of them getting married, I put this person in this team.
Absolutely. Well said.
Okay. I think we can open this forum to questions.
Sure.
Dheeraj has a question.
Dheeraj.
Yeah. Hello, Asit. Nice. So far, the talk has been really great.
Thank you.
So my question was, what kind of jobs require a generalist versus what kind of jobs require a specialist? Like some of the jobs require a very specific set of skills, and some of the jobs might require people who can learn a new set of skill. We just have to prove that we are able to learn new stuff, and by all kinds of different projects, all different work experience that we have in the past, that would be an evidence to say that I am a generalist. So what kind of jobs in the market in general require a generalist? Where do they actually specialist? That is the question.
Well, it's a specialist world, I have to say. So everyone who is a specialist definitely will find his or her way to find the right job. I think the word generalist, at least you study something, right? I mean, like you do graduation, so basically you put yourself actually to be specialized in one field. I mean, like it can be computer science, but maybe Java, C++, and Python. So now you're a generalist. Now you have to start actually see what is my destiny, right? What is, I think I would say, golden opportunity, because it keeps on changing, because your life keeps on changing, right? And I would say somebody who's specialized, maybe he will or she will be super successful for the next 5-10 years, and nothing else he or she has to do. But as a generalist, the chances might be not that high of finding a job at the very first moment. On the other hand, you have to display yourself also in the next 5, 6, 7 years. You know Java, Python, data science technologies. So you could actually be understanding all the 3 languages, understanding backend, frontend. Just to give you an example, maybe I'm just talking too much of IT stuff, understanding backend, frontend, QA, product management, and everything. So which would ideally make you to a good product owner, scrum master, maybe one day a project lead. So I think the question is a bit general to answer, because there are so many best practices and so many things I have seen, by myself, being a generalist, then became a specialist. Now the thing is, it's now a brand, and especially in a city like Berlin. And if you are headhunted once, that the headhunting part will start only when you are a specialist, because the companies will ask, I'm looking for a Python developer with 5 years experience using R, Kafka, whatever, Spark, and no MongoDB database, for example, So then nobody will have your CV, the general CV on the screen on LinkedIn, because it doesn't match, And if you talk about the AI platforms these days, open the CVs, and all of a sudden there's no match with your CV. So the generalist, I think, has good chances if he knows exactly that one day or the other, his future job will be more like a leader or maybe like a project manager role, understanding everything. But to tell you the truth, Dheeraj, is, I think, being a specialist gives you in the beginning a better entry to get into a job. And again, if you are like a Python developer, which is maybe more into the back end, why don't you learn parallelly a front-end technology, or maybe things like NLP, which is a super thing, or project management, ITSM, and so on, which makes your qualification higher. You're still actually somehow doing a lot of things parallelly, but actually from the recruiter or from the company's view, you are a specialist, and I would choose this option, what I've just suggested. Just concentrate, focus on one thing. Very good, it's again like we do it in life. Just focus on one thing in a day, you will do it perfectly, not on 2 even, just on one thing. And then you will be the best Python developer, but at the back end, we can say you have done an ITIL certificate, it also got sponsored, you have done PMI, you have done this, and even React and Angular, right? So then basically in the next job, you can say, no specialization, I want to be the head of the department because I know back and front at the same time, or maybe like leader in charge, something like this. Think like this, or like that. That is my idea and experience.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
What are the top 3 things that surely makes someone a misfit?
Not prepared for the interview, number 1, because if somebody is coming to a, let's say, it will happen again, a face-to-face interview, not just Teams and Zoom, doesn't know anything about the company he is applying, he didn't inform at all, he just came to the interview. It still happens, that the person doesn't know what the company is actually doing, understanding the business. Second thing is, there's so many examples, not preparing a good CV, which is state of the art. So basically, a lot of people are using the Europass format, which is actually not bad, but as we discussed, it should be now, especially for IT jobs, more state of the art, So the CV matters, I would say, just because the CV is your own book, you're right. You write your own book in 1 or 2 pages. If this is not correctly written, properly rated, I think that's a misfit then. And the third thing is, if you don't show interest at all, just being your ego, your attitude kind of issues you have, you think you can conquer the world with 10 years of experience, being the best in what you are, then just stay where you are. Don't need to join a company.
Okay, we take one last question and then we wrap up. Debom.
I just have a question to Asit that first of all, really great set of questions, and it brings out a lot of information for students, and thanks a lot to both the panels. And I have one particular question that you told that there is sometimes a recruiter or HR, when he gets a request, he doesn't sit down with the CTO to generate the job description. And when it comes to us as appliers, we see a certain number of skills, and as freshers or as we do our projects in the university, we haven't used all the technologies we come across that.
Sure.
And there is a 20% misfit or 30% misfit with the number of technologies we get to see in the JD. So should we all include that in our CV and make it more specific to the role? Or we just put what we know and then go ahead and see what happens. And in that case, if we make it super specific to that particular role, we have to lie in certain terms, in certain skills. And that sometimes it's learnable through till the date of interview, because we are super adaptive in learning new technologies and tools. So should we go ahead with that, or rather just use a more generalist CV and then see what happens?
And I would like to add a bit to Debom's question. Could the applicant leverage some of the skills like competitive coding or open source contributions to make a way into this field?
Yeah, 100%. As I mentioned, if you have no experience in the industry, like I'm talking about the real industry, then it's high time to put your project links, whatever you've done, in an extra, column or something, And they were basically, I think 2 or 3 suggestions I would give here. I would apply whatever your CV or your profile suits. Number 1, there's nobody who can tell you not to apply, okay? Because the world looks very good for data science to find a job, and just to answer Anirban's question, it's a good world, to find a job. And secondly, to change your CV, I think it has to be really, really specific what you have maybe done in your master's thesis or maybe in a project or something where it matches 100%, just to highlight this, But I wouldn't exclude things. As I said, like if I would say I see a job where I suit 70-60%, I would highlight them and the first 2 kind of stations, and then I would just mention still the skill set or give you a project link, like a kind of link for where your other projects are done, if it's somehow possible for data scientists, So this is what I would do, but it is challenging, to get selected, because there are a lot of applicants, definitely not just from Germany who are applying directly, but also from other countries. But as you're already here, the chances are definitely higher. You have studied here, you're still studying here, and the way to the companies is not very far away, but I would say keep on applying to companies. It looks really bright, the job market. And secondly, I would recommend you to have highlighted the projects which are suiting to the company's requirements.
Okay, we
can talk one-to-one about this.
Okay, we'll just take one question because Aditya had a question. Aditya, sorry.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for all the insightful information which you gave. You could hear me, right?
Yeah. It's a bit low, but it's okay.
Okay, yeah. Maybe now?
Yeah, it's still low, but it's okay.
Yeah, so thanks for the insightful information that you gave. And I just want to ask this question, which I find myself in this situation a lot. So, for example, when we apply for a job in general and the job is for an entry-level position, and it's for an entry-level position, but it says, say, 2 to 3 years of experience is required. So, is academic practical experience that I gain from projects and stuff considered, or is it purely industrial job experience?
I would say yes. Reality says no. Because the academic part is definitely something good to have, something motivational to have, inspiring to have, Now, I don't want to demotivate people here. I want to actually inspire people to keep on doing studies, but the reality says, because again, a current company where I was talking about the data science, it was written the same till 2 to 3 years of experience, So I asked them, why are you looking to work with me if you're just looking for freshers? And then the HR told me, we're not looking for freshers, we're looking for high-level people. Okay, so high-level starts with 2 or 3 years. I said, no, but it's written in the JD. Change the JD, so that every applicant, every fresher should actually apply. So you're looking for freshers, 2 or 3 years of experience is for me not a job where I can help you. You can find them on your own. You just go to the university and just write on a blackboard, we're looking for data scientists. You will find many CVs. Aditya, I think the main part is what can motivate you, I think, is to mention all the practical part in the CV, the 2 to 3 years of experience cannot be created because you haven't lived them, If you have some pre-experience, let's say in India, mention them all with the full bang, Again, CV written, the activities with bullet points underneath, the technologies you've used, then highlight them, then you can see exactly, this is my red line, this is my book to read for you, okay? Now, if you have no experience at all, you just come out of the Magdeburg University and just looking for the bright world to find a job, you're what? You're a data scientist?
Oh, no. So let me just introduce myself. So I study medical systems engineering, master. Okay. But my past experience in India was completely hardware related, and whatever I do now is completely software related. So I have academic experience working in projects, different type of projects with Python and image processing, etc. But I couldn't do internship because all the internship that I work in is mandatory internship, so I couldn't apply for those. Okay. So I basically have academic practical experience, and I will be like a fresher graduating. So that's my situation.
So medical science means you're working with hardware, embedded stuff, right?
The thing which I work now is kind of specific with deep learning and machine learning based image processing and reconstruction related stuff.
Okay, but that's great. See, if I hear the word medical, I know it's an individual talk right now, but in general, see the job market. I don't know, are you also from Potsdam or from Berlin?
Oh, from Magdeburg.
From Magdeburg. From Magdeburg, yeah. Basically, Berlin is not very far away, and I think there are a lot of health startups, just to not name any companies, these are the right field for you. There will be 1 or 2 jobs which will definitely interest you. They're looking for all these IoT guys right now, data science guys and everything who have medical background, but you have studied medical science, and now you're doing NLP, data science stuff. It couldn't be a better combination. If you just look for digital health companies, you can Google it, you will find them in berlinstartupjobs.com, startup jobs in Berlin, I forget. Yeah. There are a couple of companies who are looking for such persons, because one thing I can tell you, the competition is not very high because it's a new field, in Germany. Now with the elektronische Patientenakte, like the electronic patient file and the Impfpass, I'm telling you, it's happening right now. These kind of persons, data scientists, AI, your field, what you mentioned, are definitely in demand. Gematic as a company, sorry to name it, but I just have to mention it, which is absolutely into hardware IT. They're doing the medical cart, like the Tikar cart, everything IT, IoT stuff, and so that's what I can tell you. And not the only barrier, I don't know how good your German is, that might be the KO, for sometimes, okay, how good is your German, if you talk about the company fit, at least if you enter the interview hall, if you just give a bright smile and say, hello, guten Tag. But again, I would say, check out the job board. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was about to say I can hold my conversation on my own. I've done till B2 and I practice every now and then with my friends.
Cool.
But my main concern was about this entry-level positions requiring 2 to 3 experience. Yeah. That was it. Yes, thank you.
I think sure. But again, we can talk on individual notes. Sure.
Yeah, you answered almost most of the part.
Okay.
I don't want to take up so much time. Yeah.
Sure. I'm free.
Asit, Mr. Dutta, I thank you so much for taking your time out today and having this conversation with us and answering as many questions as possible. Asit, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having such a big round, and hopefully I could be of a bit of help. I know it's sometimes sounds like a realistic story, but it's the fact. We are actually the reality. We are the future. We are the future of this world. Just make the best out of it. If somebody wants to add me over LinkedIn, I'm always open to new friends and connections. Where I can talk to you individually. That's anyways my job. To help people. And when it comes to any professional thing, just contact me. No hesitation. Now you know me a bit that I'm not so shy. And just if you have any questions, just contact me or call me whenever you're free. Thank you, Anirban, once again, and team of Anirban. He did really good. I hope I can see myself, or hear myself soon, and also the other podcasts that you are doing amazingly good. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much.
Here you have made it till the end of another amazing conversation. Please check this space out next week, Wednesday as well. Next week, we publish the episode where we interview Dr. Biswas, who is the CTO of Darwin Digital. You may find that useful as well. We aim to release one new episode every Wednesday for the next 7 weeks on LinkedIn, Google Podcast, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. If you find this conversation useful, please share this with your friends and stay connected with us. Thank you for listening.